Welcome to Create Your Own Reality, a show about hope, inspiration, and encouragement. A program that will feature guests and topics that may inspire you to think about what is real and how you can create miracles in your life. Your host, Badish Lang. Thank you for joining us on Create Your Own Reality. I'm your host, Badish Lang, and my special guest is pet communicator Rosemary Levesque. Our show's topic is connecting with your pets. Rosemary, thank you for coming. I'm so excited to have you.
Badish.
You know, it's an interesting subject. We all have pets, and yet we don't realize that there's so much more to the relationship that can enrich having a pet and a pet communicating, the communications back and forth. So tell me a little bit about your background, because it's very unusual.
Well, yes, thank you. I was born in Hawaii and grew up in New Hampshire. Following my three older brothers around, my oldest brother was a biologist, became a biologist, and I became a biologist. And throughout my childhood, I would say that I spent a lot of time outside. I was digging in the dirt and collecting worms and catching frogs, and I had lots of pets throughout my life, cats, dogs, surrounded myself with animals, was very, very comfortable around animals. I became a biology teacher, and after my daughter was born, I stopped teaching in the classroom so that I could be home with my kids. And we adopted a yellow lab named Ginger. And Ginger was very special to us in our life. She was not my first dog by any means, but she was the first dog that, had a big impact on my life. Didn't know it at the time, but she did become sick, and I had to find some natural solutions to help her live and be well. And it was because of Ginger being sick that I learned Reiki, energy healing, and became a Reiki Master.
Could you explain to our audience what is a Reiki Master?
What is a Reiki Master? Reiki is a Japanese method of healing and relaxation. And you might refer to it as hands-on healing. It is a channeling of universal life energy. And the energy is all around us, of course, and we take this energy, channel it, and direct it with intention of the greatest and highest good.
Well, Rosemary, what led you to become a Reiki Master?
Well, when I was helping Ginger with being well and doing Reiki level 1 and then Reiki level 2, there's a progression here. And as you begin to use Reiki, or as I began to use Reiki, it's not for everybody, you know, but as I began to use Reiki, I realized that this was something I wanted to know more about, and Reiki Master seemed to be the most logical next step. With Reiki Master, you step into a higher awareness, a higher vibration, incorporating practices daily so that it becomes more of a lifestyle. And as a Reiki Master, I'm also able to teach Reiki to other people.
So do you think that getting certified as a Reiki Master amplified your empathicness?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I think that Reiki level 1 for me, just the basics of hands-on healing, turned on the light switch. Reiki level 2 was dialing in the right frequency, and Reiki Master for me just shone a brighter light on it.
Well, you know, I've experienced your work with Reiki, and I can tell you that I felt it from the top of my head to the bottom of my toes, and I do know that you also use this for animals. And I wanted to know, how did you know that you could communicate with animals? What's the story behind that?
I think everybody who has an animal in their home that they are close to communicates with them. they may not be aware, or they may not call it that, but on a very simple level, if the dog has to go out, the dog will stand by the door or let the person know. So there's some communication going on there at a very basic level. For me, I wasn't really aware that it was animal communication that was happening with me until the day my Ginger passed away.
What happened?
Well, she was an old girl. We had gotten through all her health challenges in a natural way. She had Reiki every day and all those wonderful things, but she had a rough night, and I was laying on the floor next to her that whole night. My daughter was instrumental in this. I called my daughter, who was going to school in Tacoma, and I told her what was happening. She said, "Mom, is this it?" And I said, "I don't know." She said, "Do me a favor, meditate." Nobody had ever asked me to meditate before, and so I meditated laying on the floor next to Ginger and got a message. Wasn't sure what it meant or where it was coming from, but I believe now on reflection that it was from Ginger. And she told me a story in pictures. And so I kept that story close to my heart, wrote about it, shared it with other people, and it may evolve into a book that can help other people understand the connection they have with their animals. So I think that might have been
the beginning?
The beginning of a bigger clue of something that not only was I able to do, but able to do with more intention, and not only communicating on a loving level with my own animals, but helping other people with their animals.
Well, you know, I don't know if most people understand that animals communicate their emotions as well as send pictures, and of course through sound. So if they're really paying attention, we actually can get a message from our animal, right?
Oh, absolutely, yes. For example, there was one dog who was lost, and a friend had posted this on a group that I had belonged to, and she said, "Please help me find my lost dog." So I just kind of checked in to see what was going on, and immediately this dog took me up above the trees so that together we could see where the dog was. And I felt that there was some prickliness in the right ankle, and a couple of other things that I relayed to the dog's owner. I said, "Be sure when your dog comes home that you check her right ankle, because I think there are some burrs in there." Yes, there were, but I could feel that. So it's not just seeing in pictures. You know, the dog showed me we were going up above the trees. Not only knowing that the dog had a drink and there was a stream there, but also feeling the sensation of what was going on with her foot.
Well, that's the empathic, intuitive connection that you can have with your pet, and the pet can have with you. I'm not a pet communicator officially, but I remember recently I had a client call me from Hawaii, and she was all in a panic because her dog was about 17 years old, and she wasn't on the main island, and a neighbor told her that her dog was missing from the property, and so she called me in a panic. And like you, I just went onto the property and found that the dog was affected by a full moon, and that it was going off on a little adventure. And I said, "You know, the dog is going to be picked up by a neighbor. It's going to come back to the property, and you're going to get a phone call." I said, "Please relax." I said, "The dog knows its way home." And of course, in 24 hours, the dog came back, and she sent me an email, and she was just ecstatic because it's such a concern when we lose an animal. And I got to tell you, that was unusual for me. I think it just had to do with the idea. I'd seen a picture of the dog, so I worked through the picture.
That's frequently what I do. I look at a picture and connect that way. And I always use Reiki when I begin a communication.
Really?
Always, yes.
Tell me how that works. That sounds interesting.
Well, I don't know how other animal communicators do this.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Let's talk about you.
When I look at a picture, I first of all, I use a little Reiki and protect my own energy and protect the energy of the animal as well.
Yes.
I'm crossing the distance of time and space. There's no barrier with Reiki, so I just kind of bring Reiki along as a benefit. And I find that the connection works. It just works.
Where do you feel the connection?
It just depends. Sometimes, for example, most recently, just a couple of days ago, I checked in with a yellow lab that a friend had found, and she thought, based on the look of this dog, you know, kind of skinny and really dirty, that this dog might have been on the road a long time and might even be abused or neglected or run away. Yeah. So I connected with him and I got the feeling, no, he is loved and he is missed. You need to check online. And she did, and she found him. I mean, within minutes she found the owner because of that. So I use Reiki to connect, and I got the feeling, you know, in that sense, it was more of a feeling of love rather than a picture of a family or a house, for example.
But you get the combination.
I get whatever I need to get. And whatever I need to get. It's a piece of the puzzle, and sometimes these pieces don't mean anything to me, but when I tell it to the person that I'm talking to, it means a lot to them.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that when people are going to go on vacation, and even if they have someone who's watching their pet while they're gone, don't you think it's important to communicate with the animal what you're doing?
Absolutely. Before, during, and apologizing a lot later. That's important too. So, for example, if I know that I'm going to be away, I make sure I have a talk with my birds and with Gracie to let them know that I'm going somewhere, and I send the picture of how many nights it will be. And this is something anybody can do. They can you know, because birds will have an idea of how many days pass based on how many nights they have to spend wherever they are. Mm-hmm. So you can send the image of, you know, just put the picture in your mind, and when you're talking to your animals, just let them know how long you're going to be gone, but you must always picture yourself coming back home
soon.
And loving them up. So, you know, picture yourself walking in the door and loving them up, reassuring them that you are indeed coming back.
Well, you know, my husband and I recently went away on a trip, and because our house is on the market, we had to put our animal in the garage because I also had a little bit of an ant problem, so I couldn't leave the food out and a lot of things. So the cat had to be in the garage, and I made a bed for him and brought his toys, and you know, his name is Stanley, and Stanley hid before we could get him to the garage because he saw the suitcases coming in, and then we found him, got him in the garage, and had our trip, a couple days, came home, and oh my goodness, he would not talk to us or be around us for about a day or so, and he was punishing us. And then I talked to you, and you said, well, did you tell him you were leaving? Did you tell him when you were coming back? And that had such a powerful impression on me. So I just wanted to thank you for that, because now I talk to him about a lot of things that I never would talk about before.
They're like children, really, in that regard. They need things explained to them, and they need to be reassured. Going to the vet can be very traumatic for a cat especially, right?
Yeah.
And for dogs, I have seen dogs in waiting rooms and they're shaking, right?
Don't you think the smell is one of the major keys? They never forget it.
I think smells, also associations. We bring Gracie to the vet every 2 weeks just to get weighed.